The book of Daniel is all about Daniel exposing the beastly empires, the bullies, for what they are. He exposes them for what they are so that we might not want to go that direction anymore. How many of you have appreciated this Daniel study? This is our last one today. Are you sad? I know. It's our last one. Daniel, he taught us two things. Number one, in Jeremiah 29, 5 through 6, if we can get that up on the screen. He told us, build houses, settle down, plant gardens, and eat what they produce. He said, you're going to be here a while, 70 years. It means completion. You're going to be in exile for that long. Don't just sit there waiting. Experience life to its fullest. We could learn from this, couldn't we? Some of us, we've been waiting so long for Jesus, and we haven't been living. Daniel teaches us something there. The next thing we learn is this from Psalm 4:3. It tells us, we are set apart, his faithful servant for himself. The Lord hears when I call him. How many of you agree we are set apart? Amen. We're a little bit different. And I'm not just talking about weird bumper sticker Christians or odd Adventists that eat haystacks and whatever. I'm talking about something bigger. We're set apart. God gave us a template. He said, this is what I look like. Love God and love your neighbor. It's a different way to live. And this is what Daniel teaches us. And when he taught us this is what happened. The evil of the empires was exposed. We understood that wanting to live like that, greedy, militant, violent, hateful, it didn't bring us life, did it? What did it bring us? Death. We also understand this, that in their persecution, Israel, they learned that they don't have to fear death. In Daniel chapter 12, we see that Daniel, he's in his last days, and then he will die. But guess what? There's a resurrection, amen? Amen. There's a resurrection, and we don't have to fear death. Some of your lives have been reflecting death. You need to start living again, or for the first time. And we also learned this, the bullies, they always have expiration dates, don't they? Everyone else will catch up, won't they? They had their growth spurt a while before you, but guess what? You grew up, and they're not so big anymore, are they? We don't have to fear them because empires will fall. They always do. God's kingdom lasts forever and ever and ever. Amen, amen, amen. So what do we do with this today? I'm trying to move fast. I want to get you to Sabbath school. I know that's important. What do we do with this? We live in a culture that revolves around consumerism and violence, don't we? It revolves around this stuff. What do? Here's what I've seen some people do. They ignore it. They pull out their graphs and their decoder rings, and they hide out in their bunkers waiting for the end time, not realizing that it's already started. And they don't live their lives now, and they just wait it out. And they miss the beautiful experience of life now. God is calling you to live heaven now and share that with everyone else that you know. If it was really good news to you, would you be sharing it with everybody you know? You probably would. I want you to think about this too. Some people, they'll pick up the hammer and the nails, and they'll buy into the beastly empire mentality. And they'll violently oppose us. And before you know it, they've embraced it so much that they begin accusing us with hammers, nails. And it's sad. Here's what I believe God calls us to do. To stand up to resist the pull of beastly empires. By showing mercy and compassion and love to those in need. I'm going to go there today, and I'm going to say something that might make you angry. You ready? Every single week I've talked about Daniel, I've had someone come up and say this. Well, what do we do with ISIS, Pastor? What do we do with ISIS? What do we do with these violent groups that are stepping up into the picture? Well, you can't possibly tell me you just sit back and let them do this. You're right. We don't. Here's what I want to show you. I want to read you something powerful. There was this Catholic monk named Christian de Cher. He lived in a monastery in Algeria. In 1993, radical Islam began to spike there. And it got so bad that people were telling him, you got to get out of here. You have to flee. He stayed, amen? Because he thought the people there were worth redeeming. He stayed there in the midst of all of this violence and chaos. And on May 24, 1996, he was beheaded by Muslim radicals. Anticipating his death, he wrote this letter to his family, his church, his community, and his enemies. And this is what it said. If it should happen one day, and it could be today, that I become a victim of the terrorism that now seems ready to encompass all foreigners living in Algeria, I would like my community, my church, and my family to remember that my life was given to God and to this country. I ask them to accept the one master of all life was not a stranger to this brutal departure. Our God was met with a cross. I ask them to pray for me, for how could I be found worthy of such an offering? I ask them to be able to associate such a death with the many other deaths that were just as violent and forgotten. My life has no more value than any other, nor any less value. In any case, it is not of innocence of childhood. I have lived long enough to know that I share in the evil which seems all around us. I should like, when the time comes, to have a clear space which would allow me to beg forgiveness of God and of my fellow human beings, and at the same time to forgive with all my heart the one who strikes me down. Obviously, my death will justify the opinion of all those who dismissed me as naive and idealistic. Let him tell us what he thinks now, they'll say. But such people should know that my death will satisfy my most burning curiosity. At last, I will be able, if God pleases, to see the children of Islam as he sees them, illuminated in the glory of Christ, sharing in the gift of God's passion and of the Spirit, whose secret joy will always be to bring forth our common humanity amongst our differences. I give thanks to God for this life, completely mine, yet completely theirs too. To God who wanted it for joy against in spite of all odds. In this thank you, which says everything about my life, I include you, my friends past and present, and those friends who will be here at the side of my mother and father, my sisters and brothers. Thank you 1,000-fold. And to you, too, my friend of the last moment, who will not know what you are doing. Yes, for you too, I wish this thank you, this adieu, whose image is in you also, that we may meet in heaven like happy thieves. If it pleases God, our common Father, amen. What do we do in the face of violence and beastly empires? I believe we do what Daniel and Jesus did. We join a group that resists this pull, and we show compassion and love even to our enemies, because we don't fear death. Amen. We don't fear the devil because he's already been beaten. Amen. We no longer want sin to prevail in our lives. We want life, and we want life more abundantly. That is the kind of life God is calling us to. And we have found we've overcome. We found victory. We have overcome through the blood of the Lamb. Jesus on the cross exposes these things, and we don't have to fear anymore. And someone should say amen to that. What do we do in the face of ISIS and beastly empires? I believe Daniel and Jesus show us the keys. We have overcome. Let's start acting like overcomers. Stand with me as we sing the bridge to this last song.